everyone. Well, where to start? Obedience. Sometimes when we are obedient to Father of all things, Source Creator, Christ, or any of the benevolent masters in the Spirit that teach us, sometimes you feel really silly. And I was talking to Father just then about how sometimes you don't want to feel silly. But we do, and he put it in my heart, and he said, when you finish this race, when you turn around and look back, and you see all of these things that I put in your heart to be obedient with, you're going to see that they were the truth, that was the truth, and that your obedience to me does seem silly in this third density, because the ego, and it's your ego, your ego doesn't want to look silly. It wants to perform. It wants to be strong. And sometimes the Father is saying, be obedient to me and show your what you think or perceive to be weaknesses. But when you turn around, you're going to realize that they weren't. And that this is a practice to being obedient to Father, to me, he says. And no matter how silly you feel, if he wants you to speak and it feels silly, but he's prominent in those words, because you know it, you feel it, because you feel humbled. You're really not here for any of this. You're not here for this material existence. You're not even here for people to want to like you. You're here to be obedient. And I was just talking to him, and sometimes it feels silly. And he also brought up in my mind and my heart that when we don't always want to say what he wants us to say, or be what he wants us to be, or do what he wants us to do. We don't always want to do it because of our ego and our pride and what we think is going to be perceived, and all of these different things. And he's trying to say that obedience is the key to, whether it's silly, feels silly or not. That obedience is the key, because when you turn around, you'll realize that none of it was silly, and he's in it all. So obedience is the key for Father. And I also was talking to him about the apostles and the archetypes, and how we can cut off the ear, we can deny Christ. And he was explaining to me that when you feel like, okay, you just put that in my heart to be me, just to be me, no matter how it's perceived and how silly it feels, you just put that in my heart to say, and I didn't say it, or I didn't be it. And it is in our fruits, because saying it, really, he tells me to be more silent and allow things to be brought forward before you speak on anything, sort of things. But he says in your acts and in your fruits, that's a very important thing too. And so we can deny Christ when we don't want to be obedient to him, to Father. We can deny Christ in ourselves, because we kind of deny the silliness, and I call it silly, but there's probably a better word for it. But I'm not getting any better word for it now, because some of the things that Father asks you to do or wants you to be feels very foreign and alien in this material third density, in this world, and it feels very alien. So, if he wants you to be like this at a certain point, or say this at a certain point, and you don't, of course he is forgiveness, and that is beautiful. But we want to practice being obedient, whether we feel silly or not, because we don't want to deny the Christ in us. Sometimes we could be having a conversation with someone, and that conversation could be with an authority figure, or the conversation could be with just a shop assistant, or anyone, anywhere. And you get this urge, and you know that your ego and everything's back, and you're in control of that, and you get this urge and this feeling, and then you try to pull it apart a little bit before you say it, because you pull it apart until the point where you go, that's a little bit silly, I don't really want to say that, or I don't want to really be that right now. And right there we can deny Christ in our conversations with people. We find that we're talking to people that are very worldly, very materialistic, and the Father wants you to say something about who you are, and you want to deny that because you want that, you pull it apart in your mind, and you want that person to accept you, and that's where you stop being obedient to Father, no matter how silly it feels. You stop being obedient, but if you do it, His Spirit always has a perfect result, and that's what we've got to keep in our mind, that His Spirit always has a perfect result, always miraculous, always new, always beautiful, and never the way we perceive it, because it's always different. This is what being in that place means. And so it feels silly sometimes. And I'm saying this because this is a normal thing that we battle when we battle the flesh and the carnal mind, and we kind of battle against Father. But being more obedient is what we need to do. So today, no matter what it is that the Spirit leads you to say, or be, or do, don't deny the Christ in you. Let the Spirit lead. Let it lead you, because it won't lead you astray, and it will lead you out of a situation. But that humility and that love and all of the Father's attributes, that has a profound effect on people around us when we're obedient to it. Not them, not the situation, not from their perceptions of us, not from our perception at all. No perceptions involved. That's it. Be more obedient. I'm in my new dwelling right now, and it's quiet, and except got spirit in the background, and this is my dwelling. So, and this is always only for. So this is my little dwelling right now. Here's my room in there, and I take you for a little quick tour. And this is kind of my alone space, and my messy bed. A quick tour of my new dwelling that Father blessed me with. And it's a nice quiet space. And of course, I've got my Nagamadi right there. Oops. Yeah. So no matter how silly it feels, it matters not what people think no more. And we're at a stage now that it's very important that we keep ourselves in this place, no matter who we're around, who we're working for. I don't feel that you're going to know what the Father's doing and what His presence and His Spirit's going to be doing in people around you. It's good when we're around all spiritual people. That's cool. We still are learning and practicing this sort of humility that Yeshua taught and that He was and He was showing us to be like. It's we still learn that around spiritual people. It's a lot easier, but in those circumstances, He didn't come for that. Like, you're not here for them. We build each other up. We may share time and space with each other and in the spiritual aspects. We're all different parts of the body, but we're all one of it. And so we're not here for that. You're not here for that. You're here for this silliness, for this humility, this love, and as much as weirdness, as much as it feels weird, we get to represent something completely alien and foreign to this world, to society, to the masses. And it does take a lot of alone time in Father, and it takes a lot of obedience. And so I think that's where I'm going this morning, is just practice being obedient and led by the Spirit, no matter how it makes you feel. Because when we turn around at the end of the day here, when we turn around at the end of this race, we're going to realize that the Spirit was in completely different things than we thought we were doing. If we think we're teaching this person over here something about Christ, sometimes we're not. Sometimes it's our ego wanting to teach. But we'll turn around at the end of this race and we'll see where the Spirit was in, and it will be in most of the weirdness, the silliness, the things that make you think, I don't want to say that, I don't want to be that right here. Because it's all in His attributes, it's all in His love, so there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with being different. And I think that's the key to what I'm trying to say this morning. So everybody have a beautiful day, and Open your hearts up to love and loving one another, and be led by the Spirit. See what happens when you go against this and follow this, no matter what it makes you look like, seem like, being perceived like, whatever. Just follow your heart. So you have a wonderful day, and pretty sure that's about all I wanted to say, and that I love you guys, and that keep journeying and stay obedient and keep practicing and learning these things. Much love, everyone.